There we
One
go.
by one.
We'll call a regular meeting in the New Ulm Economic Development Authority for Tuesday, April 10th, 2018, 8 a.m. to order. First item on the agenda is roll call. We do have a quorum. So before we go on to the rest of the agenda, I'd like to introduce Chris Dalton, our new economic development person here for the city.
Zoom in
I'll
on
give you
that.
a half hour to tell us what we doing wrong or doing right. So welcome aboard.
All right, thank you.
Welcome.
Good to be here.
Yes.
Item number 2, approve the minutes of the last meeting.
I'll offer a motion to approve those minutes.
A second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Any discussion on anything? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item number 3, from the New Ulm Economic Development Corporation Coordinator regarding activities during the month of March 2018. You have them in front of you.
We don't have Mr. Toll here today.
Not
huh?
today, the way it looks, or not yet.
Not yet.
We can ask him to talk when he comes in, but otherwise,
Do we want to come back to it in case he pops in, or do we want to just approve him?
approve him, then he can make a highlight on him.
I'll make a motion to approve the economic coordinator's activities regarding the month of March 2018.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 4A, consider a resolution approving the 2018 PHA annual plan. Sorry. Heather?
All right, as you're aware, we've been working on the annual plan process for several months now. And the first thing we need to do today is have the public hearing on the 2018 annual plan, including the new chapter to our Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program Administrative Plan, which is Chapter 17 regarding project-based vouchers, which is a new program we are intending to implement.
It's a public hearing. Anybody like to be heard? Step up to the mic, name and address for the record.
My name is Dan Bickner. I live at 721st North. I'm opposed to any use of Section 8 housing vouchers in the State Street apartment building. I don't think it's been fair. I think this board's been trying to push this through. One, if you haven't used the Section 8 housing vouchers already, I don't feel that there's a need for it. Two, I don't want my property value to go down because of Section 8 housing vouchers. I don't think the public's been made aware of what Section 8 housing vouchers actually mean, and I'm opposed to it.
Thank you.
Could I get your name again?
Dan Bickner.
Heather, I have a question just for point of clarification. Any eligible renter that comes in and qualifies for a Section 8 voucher can take that voucher to any participating landlord throughout the community of New Ulm, is that correct?
Are you talking about the project-based vouchers
No,
or the housing?
any Section 8 voucher.
The Housing Choice Voucher Program, the participant gets the voucher and they shop for a unit, and that can be anywhere that administers a Section 8 program.
Right, so if a landlord owned a home next to Mr. Beekner's house, he could theoretically have a tenant in that rental property that is a participant in the Section 8 voucher program.
That's correct.
And we can't discriminate on any basis in terms of where an eligible tenant would choose to live in the community of New Ulm, isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So these project-based vouchers, we're looking at 4 in the State Street apartment buildings. And there would be nothing to stop any tenant under the Section 8 program within that block. We could have 4, 8, or dozens theoretically within a given neighborhood if that's where they desired to live. Is that
That's
correct? Okay. Just wanted to clarify that, just to show that I think maybe there's some misconceptions here about what Section 8 means and what it does for a community or a neighborhood or property values. I think any potential impact is going to be heard throughout the community the way it is, just based on the way the program is administered. So I just wanted that to get out there.
Anybody else like to be heard? Thank you. With nothing else, entertain a motion, close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for the 2018 PHA annual plan, including Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program, Administrative Plan, Chapter 17, Project-Based Vouchers.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item number 2. Anybody like to take that one? Offer resolution, waive reading, approving it? Or whatever?
I'll offer a motion, or offer a resolution, waive the reading, approving the 2018 annual plan for public housing in Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program.
Second.
We have a motion to second, offer resolution, waived reading. Any more discussion? Seeing none? Heather, please call the roll.
Commissioner Braun,
Yes.
Commissioner Yanni,
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Yes.
President Schmitz.
Yes. Motion carries. Item number 5, from the EDA staff regarding administrative activities during the month of March 2018. Heather?
All right, we'll start with the Section 8 program overview. Note on the first few pages of your report, we have 83 active vouchers on the program during the month of March. Payments from HUD exceeded payments to landlords by just over $4,000 for the month. Administrative fee expenses exceeded disbursements by $768 for the month, and I'll note that's due to having 3 payroll periods during the month of March. Note on pages 3 and 4 the unaudited balances for the HAP and admin fee funds. And on page 5, note we were able to increase to 86 vouchers as of April 1st, with the waiting list at 73. Staff continues to issue new vouchers. We have offered vouchers to everyone on the high priority portion of our waiting list. So the wait time currently from the time of the initial application is about a month, and that's just processing time. So for the high priority group, they're virtually getting a voucher now immediately after they apply, which is a good position to be in. Any questions on Section 8 before we move on?
Go ahead.
All right, moving on then to the public housing program. Note revenues exceeded expenditures by just under $400. Broadway House currently has 2 vacancies with 61 on the waiting list. Those vacancies are spoken for with move-ins scheduled for May 1st. And we have 1 vacancy in our family unit rentals, also scheduled to move in May 1st. So we're just doing a little rehab on those units and getting them ready for the next tenant. Broadway House has 40 on the waiting list. Moving on to the EDA fund on page 10, note cash assets of just over $710,000. We had a revenue increase in March due to the recent sale of the spec house at 633 Fender Drive. And our expenses increased due to the payments to the New Ulm Economic Development Corporation. The contract actually wasn't signed until March, so we had to make 3 months' worth of payments to get current on that agreement. And then also we paid the assessments for the spec house at 633 Fender Drive. That was required in order to close the sale, and the buyer was TIF eligible, so they were our responsibility. So we had higher than normal expenses. If you noticed on the chart, the graph really jumps. And that's why. Any questions on that? If not, we'll move on then to the Property Rehabilitation Loan Program. Note available funds of about $256,000. Staff did have 2 new inquiries during the month of March. Both were provided with applications, but the applications have not been turned back in at this time. So hopefully we'll see some new applications. The rental property fund on page 13 of your report, just note cash assets of about $81,000 there. And moving on to the Garden Terrace report, Garden Terrace has 86 units leased with 43 on the waiting list. Garden Terrace currently has 2 vacancies. They had no turnovers last month, and they have 1 move-out notice pending for May. Garden Terrace has had a higher than normal turnover the last several months, so the waiting list has gone down quite a bit as that's getting cleaned up. As people are being offered units, maybe we find out they've moved on or they've found housing elsewhere, so.
On that topic, though, even though we consider it higher than normal vacancy, it's probably still less than what is found typically in the industry. I mean, we're so used to having 100% full apartments to have 1 or 2 is vacant is rare. But if you go to the other apartment complexes, you know, they normally have a 2 to 3% vacancy rate, you know, all year round. So this is rare for us. It's
So those a lot of vacancies, are we going to more than likely see more repairs, and because people moving out, we're cleaning up and placing carpet and painting and.
Yeah, I mean, we do try to rehab the units at turnover. It's easier than trying to rehab them while they're occupied, especially replacing flooring and that sort of thing. They did mention that the move-out coming up in May, that will need substantial rehab, so I'm assuming it was a long-term tenant. So it's due for flooring replacement and painting and that. So.
My understanding is it's slowed down some people moving in. At least my neighbor who's moving in there got their move-in date kicked back a couple of times because stuff is not done inside.
Oh, you know, how long ago was that? Was that recent?
That's happening now. I mean, I think
okay.
move-in date
Yeah,
was
I'm not
April
aware.
1st, and now it's been kicked back to the 15th.
I know a month or 2 ago they had trouble getting their flooring material in because of a
And I
snowstorm,
don't know
so
the
that delayed.
details,
But I'm not aware of anything currently. But, you know, I don't do the day-to-day operations over there, so I'm not always aware of those things.
we can check on it just to see if there is a hang-up.
Just to note, we mentioned last month that we had walked through some issues with the staff over there, and we did direct them to obtain a quote to replace the furnace in both garages, so 2 furnaces, so we could get an idea of what the cost would be to replace those. They are still working on obtaining those quotes for us. And they did note that there's a few potholes in the parking lot that, when weather allows, will need repair. Just normal wear and tear.
Maybe Mr. Dalton would be willing to just kind of mention what we've been up to with the LK manufacturing. Just do a brief report on where we find ourselves at this point.
Currently, LK is looking to close their facilities in May, around May 5th or so. And so currently I'm working or emailing the state to see what they're currently doing. Right now it looks like they're sending out their rapid response team to help transition employees into new jobs, as well as LK is also looking to help its employees apply for its plants that are outside the state and inside the state as well, and then helping them transition. They possibly going to be holding a job fair with the local manufacturers that have current positions available, so that those employees can transition easily. And then as the city will kind of fill in the gaps that the state and LK aren't filling.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Heather? Seeing none, entertain a motion accepted.
I'll offer a motion to accept the report.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second to accept an economic development report. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 6A, consider motion approving additional chapter to the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program Administration Plan, Chapter 17, Project-Based Vouchers. Heather?
All right, following up on the annual plan, as I mentioned, we're planning to add project-based vouchers to our portfolio in the upcoming year. So the next step in that process is approving the policy for administration of that program. So we're looking at converting 4 of our housing choice vouchers to project-based vouchers, and HUD has approved our request to do so. We use, for both our public housing policy and our Section 8 policy, we use the Nan McKay and Associates model plans. They are an industry leader, and many housing authorities also use their policies. So what I did is I looked back at the model policy that we had purchased several years ago when we were updating our policies, and looked at their chapter on project-based vouchers. To be honest with you, I just went with their model policy because this is new to me, it's new to all of us. I read through it, it sounded like it would meet our needs. I didn't see the need really for any changes. I've attached the chapter here for your review. I don't know if there were any questions on any of that, but it goes through how do we select the landlord that we're going to work with on the vouchers, the contracts involved, all of the ins and outs of administering the program. So we would need to approve this to add it to our administrative plan, the additional chapter.
And one quick question too, the project-based vouchers that we're considering, that's really not at all unusual. We're not doing anything at all unique for a community of New Ulm size either.
No.
I think one of the ones that we reviewed as part of the Housing Institute was from the city of Mora, and I don't know what their population is in comparison to New Ulm, but I don't think this is an uncommon sort of characteristic for a local housing authority to
No, there's many
administer.
housing authorities in the state of Minnesota and elsewhere that administer this program, and it's something I've been interested in looking into. It's kind of always been on my radar or my to-do list, and I just never got around to it, but then we were approached by State Street Apartments, who's interested in having some project-based vouchers in their building. We haven't committed these vouchers to that project at this time. We will need to advertise and take proposals and make a decision. We need to go through that process, which will be the next step. But before we can do that, we need to have the policy in place that tells us how we're going to select the proposal. So, but no, it's not an unusual program by any means.
So how does it differ from Section 8?
The difference with the two programs, the Housing Choice Voucher, the tenant gets a voucher, they go out and shop for a unit in the market, and they choose where they want to live, apartment, mobile home, duplex, single-family home, what community they want to be in. With the project-based vouchers, those will be assigned to a building.
Okay.
So we'll take proposals, we'll determine the landlord that we're going to work with, and the vouchers will go to their project, and they'll be used in that project only. So the tenant can't take it and move elsewhere.
I think historically, you would never see us just say, let's have a housing or a project-based voucher program. You would not see us just do that. It's really driven from the project. And in this particular case, they received points in order to get their financing to qualify for that by us saying that we would consider doing this. Okay, so it's really the project who says, to give us an edge, can we access this? And then, in our case, we said, well, yeah, we don't have anything, we don't have a policy for it, so we'll have to create that and then go through the process, and then you can apply for those 4 that they're looking for to keep in that particular unit. So you could have a city twice our size, but if there's no project out there asking for it, more than likely the EDA or the city does not have that plan sitting there, unless they're just saying, we took Nan McKay's total footprint of the policies and we just adopted the whole thing.
Right, in the case of the city of Moore, that's exactly how they came about as well. It was based on a project that was being developed, and they were approached, their housing authority, to consider, and they adopted and moved forward and passed project-based vouchers as well. So that's what, I guess that was my whole point, was that we're not creating anything new and extraordinary here. It's pretty, and I think it's becoming more commonplace, because I think these vouchers, a lot of them, although we issue them here, they can technically leave the county with a voucher. So the money that's allocated for Brown County could go elsewhere. And this is just a way for us to meet and address local needs and keep those funds that come from HUD locally.
In our community.
Yeah, so I don't think it's a bad thing at
Right,
all.
and Brian's right. We do need a partner. We need a landlord that wants to use the project. It doesn't do any good for us to have the program if we don't have a partner. So we all know there's a need for housing. We have a developer that wants to create 55 new housing units in our community. We want that project to be successful, and we're doing what we can to help them get that project up and running, so.
And we're talking about 4 specific units at the State Street Theater building.
I think so. They're, as part of their low-income housing tax credits, they're required to have 4 units that are designated to help people that have had long-term homelessness. So that's where they're intending to use these vouchers. I don't know if they'll be 4 specific apartments and always stay that, or if it will be determined by the family size that needs them, whether it's going to be a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, or 3-bedroom. I don't know. We'll find that out as we get further into the process.
There's been rumors in the community that the entire project was Section 8.
Yeah.
Which,
Oh,
which I've heard multiple times, so I think we've been able to squash that rumor pretty well.
I think the reason that impression probably is there because they've heard the term low-income housing tax credits, and they associate low income with Section 8, so they make the assumption that it's a Section 8 building. People that don't work with these programs on a day-to-day basis, don't understand there's a lot of different programs out there. They're not all lumped into one.
Right, and another thing, if you look at market rents in the city of New Ulm versus what they're proposing for these income-based, there's not a great disparity there. There's not as wide a gap, and that's what the developer told us, and that's one of the reasons they felt that this is going to be a pretty successful program, that we're not too far off the mark, which means these rents aren't going to be incredibly low compared to what the market is bearing for rents in the community at this time. So
That's correct. I looked at what they're proposing for the rents a while back, and I can't remember the exact numbers, but I look at it as workforce housing because for housing to be considered affordable, you shouldn't be paying more than 40% of your income toward your housing cost. And in order to hit that 40% at the proposed rents that they've put out there, you have to be working full-time at a higher than minimum wage rate. I mean, it was like $13 an hour to $15 an hour, depending on the apartment size. So in order to afford the rents that they're going to be charging, you're going to have income. I mean, you're not going to be a zero-income person moving in there. You wouldn't be able to pay their rent. So I think the community and the people that live in that area have a little bit of the fear of the unknown, and I think once it's open and it's been around a while, they'll see that it's not impacting their neighborhood in a negative way. In fact, studies have shown that these projects actually have increased property values.
well, I'd have to think
I
that
think we've talked about that before.
a middle school sitting empty with nothing going on for 10 years is going to deteriorate, and to find an outside entity willing to invest $15 million to repurpose that building, I can't think of that as being anything but positive. I don't know what other use we could. It's expensive, no doubt about it, to redevelop a historic old building. And so to repurpose it for this use, I think it meets several objectives. You know, we're maintaining and keeping a historic building in our community. We're providing much needed housing.
And we're saving the cost to demolish it.
Yeah,
If it falls into disrepair.
I don't know, but I guess we've had numerous discussions about that, and you know, Les is right. There's been lots of questions raised, lots of concerns, and we just have to get to the point where people are moving in, and that day passes, and people are going to come to the realization the sky's not going to fall or whatever. So.
And rumors travel faster than truth.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry to go off on a tangent there, but.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Do we have a motion on this?
Nope, not yet.
I'm going to go ahead and offer the motion approving the additional chapter to Section 8, Housing Choice Voucher Program, Administrative Plan, Chapter 17, Project-Based Vouchers.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 7A, consider motion authorizing the payment of the public housing program claims.
I'll just note we did have a couple annual expenses this month that make our claims unusually high. Our annual property insurance payment to State Farm and our annual payment in lieu of taxes.
Thank
And
you.
also 3 payroll periods.
Anybody have anything for Heather, or we can approve the claims? Entertain a motion?
I'll move to authorize payment of the public housing program claims for April 10th, 2018 in order filed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 8A, consider approval of 5-year agreement with Abdul Eric and Meyer to perform audit services for the Newham EDA and audit years beginning fiscal year 2018 through 2022. Nicole?
Every 5 years, we go out for proposals for audit services, just to make sure we're keeping our costs down and we're competitive with other audit firms, and to give other, companies the opportunity. The City Council and the PUC have already approved Abdo, Ike, and Myers for the next 5-year period, as they were the lowest bidder, and they are our current auditing firm. We have a good working relationship with them, and we have no issues or reasons to switch otherwise. So being as they were the lowest bid, they were approved. They also submitted bids separate, or to do the EDA audit separately, and we're still the lowest. So even as the package or separate, they were probably the best option.
Thank you.
I'll just note that looking at what the EDA will be paying for the upcoming 5 years, it's actually less than what we paid the prior 5 years. So they came in very competitive. So I was very pleased.
Thank you.
I'll make the motion to approve the 5-year agreement with Abdo, Ike, and Myers LLP to perform audit services for the city, Newham EDA for audit years beginning fiscal 18 through 2022.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 8B, consider authorizing Newham Baseball Association request to utilize the EDA owned lot at Fort North Street and Broadway.
I'll move it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? It's an annual due anyway, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item number 9A, sorry. Receive correspondence from the HUD Field Office regarding their audit review for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2017. Heather?
All right, you've seen the attached letter. I just wanted to include it in the packet to make you aware that they had no issues with our audit for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2017.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Heather?
I'll offer a motion receiving correspondence from HUD Field Office regarding their audit review for fiscal year ending June 30, 2017.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 9B, consider adopting amended EDA bylaws. Heather.
Right, the EDA passed a resolution to amend the bylaws at the last meeting. There were a couple items that we were directed to run past the city attorney, and we're coming back. We've got a few more changes for your consideration. I've outlined those for you. You have both a red line draft and a final draft with the changes that are being proposed. I guess I'll open it up if there's any
Did you
questions.
say you have more changes coming that we don't see here?
These are the changes.
These are the changes, all right.
So if you're okay with these changes, we can approve them, then they'll go to city council for final approval, and then they'll become effective.
Most are just operational changes reflecting how we currently do business, like the order of business was, pretty archaic, as you noticed. The bylaws number 3, which is the financial reports, that's one of the last things we do. It's not number 3, it's just reorganizing them to the way we're doing business, so.
Yeah, I read through it, I didn't see anything of concern, so I'll offer the resolution, waive the reading, to approve the amended bylaws.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second off the resolution, waived reading. Any more discussion? Seeing none. Heather, please call the roll.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Yanni?
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. And with no more business, meeting adjourned.
I didn't have to worry about sneaking out.
Get it off.